So how many Neural DSP plugin suites will it take you to achieve the broadest tonal coverage? Well, if budget is not an issue, you could consider getting the full collection. However, if you're looking for versatility while keeping your budget in check, this video will guide you to the best Neural DSP plugin lineup. So to build this list, first, we need to identify the most essential amps that producers and recording artists frequently use. These amps are instantly recognizable and can be easily pinpointed in any recording. So, what are these key amps? So let's start with the Marshall JCM 800 series, particularly the 2203. The JCM 800 is a rock and heavy metal standard with its own unique high-gain character, popularized by Slash, Zakk Wylde, John Frusciante, Kerry King, Tom Morello. Number 2, Peavey 5150, made famous by Van Halen, and this amp was later embraced by the metal community, especially in metalcore and post-hardcore. It delivers an aggressive and very saturated tone. Number 3, the Mesa Boogie tone, particularly the Mark II C+. Known for its thick distortion that can be aggressive when scooped, it also excels in delivering powerful guitar solo tones, famously used by Metallica, John Petrucci, and Steve Lukather. Number 4 is the Fender amp tone. Now this encompasses several models like the Tweed, Twin Reverb, Deluxe Reverb, and Princeton Reverb. Now these amps are known for their bright top end and high headroom, meaning they don't easily saturate or distort, but they reach the edge of breakup tone. Number 5, the Vox AC30. Popularized by the Beatles, Queen, and many indie British pop rock bands, this amp produces a signature paper-like compression. It's still in the realm of low gain, but it breaks up nicely. Number 6, the Roland Jazz Chorus 120, a famous jazz amplifier known for its flat, clean sound. It's also an excellent platform for effects as it doesn't color the tone significantly. That's why this amp found its way to alternative rock, new wave, and goth punk bands like The Cult, U2, and The Cure. So these are the 6 amps that we believe every guitar player should have in their rig. Now the next challenge is determining which Neural DSP suites feature them. Remember, each Neural DSP plugin includes 3 to 4 amp models, and many of them are styled in ways that make them very unrecognizable unless they're part of a licensed plugin suite, which is a clear giveaway. Fortunately, with the help of the Neural DSP community forums and some extensive research, we've worked to uncover where the 6 amps can be found, or at least hint at their characteristic sounds. Just a disclaimer, these recommendations have never been confirmed by Neural DSP themselves and are purely speculative or mentioned by the signature artists in their interviews. Let's start with the 5150 amps. Our topics for this are the Archetype Nolly with the Peavey 5150 block letter, the Archetype Gojira with an EVH 5153 red channel, and the Archetype Pliny with an EVH 5153 blue channel. So these 5150s come from different iterations of the amp and different channels as well, so they have differences in response and tonal curve. From our experience, Archetype Nolly's 5150 is closer to the original and sits better in mixes. Here's what they sound like side by side. Next, for our Marshall JCM 800 tone, it appears in Nolly, Henson, and Tom Morello. The JCM 800 2203 in Nolly is modded to be chunkier than usual, while in Henson, it has a darker tone. For a more accurate JCM 800 tone, we suggest picking the Archetype Tom Morello. However, this suite features a solo JCM 800 2205, kinda similar to the 2203 but with more clipping. It also has separate rhythm and lead channels. Now this amp has very little modification, so it gets you closer to the tones of Guns N' Roses and My Chemical Romance. DC-DC tone if you use the rhythm channel. A few special mentions in this category include the archetype Pliny, which has a Friedman BE100, a famous amp that is said to be a clone of a Marshall Plexi Super Lead with a Variac, although it has a lower gain than the JCM 800 models. Now, if you want a higher gain tone, you can try the Soldano Slow Suite. It is renowned for providing the best Marshall type sound. It is a beefier JCM 800, although you get a solo amp for this one. Now, let's move on to our Mesa Boogie tones. In the past, I purchased the Archetype Petrucci plugin. It's an excellent choice, particularly for Dream Theater fans, as it is said to come from John Petrucci's signature amp JP2C. However, this plugin is heavily customized to John Petrucci's preferences, which means it deviates from the controls of an actual Mesa Boogie Mark II C+. Fortunately, Neural DSP has released a licensed Mesa Boogie Mark II C+ plugin, which more accurately captures the essence of the real amp. Now, a word of caution, this plugin, like the actual Mark II C+, has complex controls and requires some practice and research to master its tweaking. Now let's go to the clean tone territory where Neural DSP outperforms many amp simulators. While high gain tones might seem more challenging to replicate, it's actually the low gain tones where many plugins and modelers fall short. This is partly because achieving that subtle edge of breakup sound is difficult to reproduce digitally, as it relies heavily on high volume settings in real life. So let's start with our Roland JC120 sound. The two plugins capturing this are the Archetype Pliny and Archetype Cory Wong. It's also worth mentioning that Cory Wong's setup also features a Dumble Overdrive Special Amp. It's known for its jazz fusion prowess. Additionally, the Morgan Suite, another plugin, also includes the SW50 inspired by the Dumble Steel Strings Singer. Alright, now let's go to our classic Fender tone. This is actually very wide, but let's categorize it to two: the pristine clean and the edge of breakup clean. So for pristine clean, what we recommend is the Archetype Rabia because it has a Fender twin reverb. Yes, that is a Fender twin reverb. But if you're looking for that edge of breakup character for John Mayer or Stevie Ray Vaughan, Morgan Suite's PR12 is a Princeton reverb, or the Tone King Imperial, a modified Fender Deluxe reverb. These amps will definitely get you there. Lastly, the Vox AC30 tone, which has been notably elusive in the Neural DSP lineup. Currently, the closest match to the Vox AC30 is the Morgan Suite's AC20, which captures the signature paper-like compression quite effectively. The Morgan AC20 apparently also appears in archetype Abasi, although it features a piezo blend. But surprisingly, it works well for achieving 1975 sounds. Alright, additionally, archetype Henson includes a matchless amp that bears some resemblance to the Vox AC30. However, it tends to break up too early and it has a slightly thin sound, making it more suited for its intended scratchy polyphia style tones. Alright, let's summarize our amp directory so you can see it more clearly. We'll also add a note on the most accurate amp simulations. So for the 5150 tone, your choices are archetype Plini, Gojira, and Nolly, with Nolly being the most accurate. For the Marshall tone, the top choices include Plini, Nolly, and Henson, with Tomorello being the most accurate. For the Mesa Boogie tone, Petrucci and Mark IIc Plus are great options, with Mark IIc being more accurate because it's a licensed suite. Now for the jazz tone, we have the Plini, Cory Wong, and Morgan, with Cory Wong standing out because of its additional Dumble amp. For our Fender tone, we have the Rabia, Tone King Imperial, and the Morgan. Now if you're satisfied with the high headroom of your selected jazz amp, you might want to skip Rabia and prioritize the latter two for the edge of breakup tones. And lastly, for the Vox, surprisingly, it's Abasi, and then we have Henson and Morgan, with Morgan AC20 being the closest match. Now we're ready to choose the set of plugins which will cover the widest range of tones. To achieve the most accurate amp simulations and a broad range of effects, interestingly, you only need 5 plugins: the archetype Nolly, the archetype Tom Morello, the Mesa Boogie Mark IIc Plus, the archetype Cory Wong, and the Morgan Suites. Morgan truly is a game changer here as it effectively captures all 3 of the most commonly used clean tones. Now, if you want to expand your clean tone a bit further, you can consider adding the Tone King Imperial for a more robust Fender tone. On the other hand, if you want to save up, you can consider getting the archetype Plini for your 5150 JC120 tone instead of having Nolly and Cory Wong. Just take note that the Plini suite has a less aggressive and warmer tone in general, but it brings it down to 4 plugin suites. But we're not done yet. We can still manage to narrow this down to 3 plugins, but we will have to compromise our effects options. So if you're satisfied with the Marshall tone of Nolly, you can drop the Tom Morello and just get either an archetype Nolly or Plini to cover the 5150 and Marshall tones, the Morgan for your versatile clean tones, and Petrucci. Now you can swap the Petrucci for Mark IIc Plus, but you will lose a lot of effects, so take note of that. And for our cheapest recommendation, which narrows it down to just 2 plugins. If you're not yet interested in the Mesa Boogie rectifier sound, you can skip the Petrucci or Mark IIc Plus and you will still have a versatile collection with the archetype Nolly and Morgan suite. So those are our top picks for the most versatile combinations of the Neural DSP Plugin Suites. And if you've already decided which ones to get, we have a limited time 30% discount for you with the code PAX. Just type this code when you check out in Neural DSP's website. Use our link in the description below. Just a few final words. Keep in mind that these recommendations are broad, but they offer a solid starting point for understanding standard guitar tones. This approach will help you navigate the overwhelming choices available. And as you become more familiar with these options, you'll gain a better sense of which additional amps you might want to explore in the future. Happy gas! Ako si Pax. Hanggang sa muli. Tugtog lang.